The best of Money Matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin Jeong. U.S. President Donald Trump officially announced his plans for a Golden Dome system that focuses on countering potential missile threats from China and Russia. Now, the plan is ambitious, with the system meant to officially put American anti-missile weapons in space for the first time. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump estimated that the Golden Dome would be completed within 3 years and cost about $175 billion US. But how much will it really cost? What are the benefits and risks associated with deploying a space-based missile defense system like the Golden Dome? And how might this move reshape the global balance of power, particularly in relation to China and Russia? Well, joining us today to share more is James D.J Brown, who's a professor of political science at the Temple University, Japan. Welcome to the show, Professor Brown.
It's my pleasure.
All right, Professor, what exactly is this Golden Dome, and why does it cost $175 billion and, take 3 years to complete?
Well, the short answer is that we don't know exactly really what it is. It's best to think of it as more of a concept at the moment rather than a concrete plan. But essentially, it seems to be that the idea is to have a system of systems bringing together the US's existing missile defense systems with a new space-based system. And this is the interesting thing, a space-based system that would be made up of a constellation of hundreds of different satellites that would detect and ultimately eliminate incoming missiles.
So how does the Golden Dome differ from existing U.S. missile defense systems like the Patriot system or THAAD?
Yeah. So Patriot and THAAD are terminal phase interceptors. So perhaps you can think of it as really a last line of defense as the missiles are speeding towards their target, whether that's a city or a particular kind of military site. Patriot and THAAD are designed to destroy them at that last stage. What we're talking about here is rather a much more comprehensive system that would include intercepting missiles at an earlier stage during their boost phase. The other kind of different thing here is that the idea is that Golden Dome would intercept a much wider range of missiles. Currently, U.S. missile defense is really set up only to intercept really individual missiles. So if you had a rogue state like North Korea launching perhaps 1-2 missiles, the hope is that US's current missile defenses would be able to intercept them. The idea with Golden Dome is to go way beyond that and to be able to intercept a much wider range of missiles and a much bigger quantity of them from peer, meaning Russia, or near peer countries, meaning China.
Well, Trump initially called it an Iron Dome, inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, but renamed it in February. What's your take on Trump modeling Israel's Iron Dome then?
Yeah, I think it says something about the influences upon him. He has close relations with Israel, and it seems to be that, he was briefed about Iron Dome, which is really quite a successful system for Israel, and it seems to be he's thought, well, hang on a second, why don't we have a system like this? This seems to have been the inspiration. So it was originally named as an Iron Dome for the United States, and then it's been kind of badged as Golden Dome, seemingly because it's Trump's favorite color.
I see. Well, Mr. Trump unveiled this project just days into his second term and folded the funding into a tax bill. To what extent is the Golden Dome being used as a political symbol rather than a defensive initiative, Professor Brown?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the right way to think about it. And it's typical Trump, really, that he's had great success in fixing upon very symbolic projects. And, he himself perhaps doesn't understand the technical details. Many of his voters also don't, but they really stand for something that he sees as important. So this goes back to the proposed wall with Mexico. More recently, he's been talking about kind of restarting Alcatraz as a symbol of his commitment to domestic security. And I think Golden Dome plays that same role, really standing for his commitment to, modernizing U.S. defenses and his agenda of so-called peace through strength.
So how likely is it that Congress will approve the initial $25 billion funding request?
Yeah, so the reconciliation bill has various kind of specific hurdles it needs to overcome. But I think that even if it faces problems there, the initial 25 billion will probably be found. After all, when it comes to the armed forces, there tends to be bipartisan support for funding them generously, in part because if you oppose the funding, you open yourself to criticism that you're kind of jeopardizing the security of the United States.
I mean, many Americans, though, currently are concerned about inflation, healthcare, and etc. Is there a risk that the economic burden of this program could outweigh its potential benefits?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have no idea what this is going to cost. The various numbers have been floated around, ranging from 100 billion plus right up to more than 800 billion. But at the moment, since it is more of a concept than anything else, you can just pick a number out of the air. So yeah, I think you could make the argument that this money could be better spent. The advocates for the project, however, make the case that this is very important so the United States can catch up in this area. There's a feeling that the U.S. has fallen behind China and perhaps Russia as well, especially in hypersonics. And added to that, there's the suggestion that maybe this could be cheaper than other defense projects by bringing in new tech companies, SpaceX, Palantir, and others. There's even the idea that the satellites could have what I've heard described as a day job. That is, that they could have a civilian function as well as a military one, and that could perhaps help with the sharing of costs.
But given past failures like the Reagan-era Star Wars initiative, why should the public trust this administration to deliver on a similar promise now?
Well, I don't think they should. I think that there's every chance that this project will either be significantly scaled down, or there could be enormous cost overruns, and it might well never be built. So I think skepticism is certainly merited.
Now, the system would place weapons in space for the first time in U.S. history. So how does this align with international treaties like the Outer Space Treaty?
Yeah, so, for the Trump administration, international agreements have never really been a priority.
Right.
We've seen their withdrawal from the Intermediate Nuclear Forces treaty. New START is going to expire. So frankly, I don't think they're that interested in whether there would be international restrictions on this. I think they would also make the argument that this is not about placing weapons in space. This would be a defensive system, and actually that their hand had been forced by the fact that others, including Russia, are rumored to be moving towards putting nuclear weapons in space.
Trump says Golden Dome will be operational by the end of his term. How realistic is the timeline proposed by Trump, considering its current conceptual stage?
Yeah, so whilst so much is uncertain about this, I think one thing that we can be certain of is that it will not be complete by the end of his term. Frankly, that timeline is utterly unrealistic. We've seen with government projects the cost overruns, the time overruns. I point also to some of the problems the US has had in developing missile defense for the island of Guam. And if you think about how small that is, then that really brings home just how much of a huge challenge it would be to protect the entirety of the United States.
Mr. Trump says the Golden Dome system focuses on countering potential missile threats from China and Russia, as you've mentioned earlier in our conversation as well. But will adversaries like China or Russia interpret Golden Dome as a defensive measure or a destabilizing first strike enabler?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, the latter. And in fact, we've already had included within the recent Russia-China joint statement the description of Golden Dome as destabilizing. China's added to that by describing it as offensive in nature. So what they're worried about here is no matter what Washington says, they're worried that if Golden Dome would actually work, if the United States could be confident of intercepting missiles launched from a second strike, that might encourage the US to strike first. and to attack either Russia or China with nuclear weapons. That's what their worry is.
Then how will the U.S. respond if Russia or China begin, deploying nuclear weapons in space in retaliation to Golden Dome?
Yeah, so their hope would be that they could find means of deterring that by very clearly signaling that there would be very negative consequences in the steps that the U.S. would take. But if that ultimately failed, and if either Russia and or China were to put nuclear weapons in space, then I suppose we might find a situation where the U.S. would feel that they had no alternative but to do the same.
Okay. Could the Golden Dome initiative, though, trigger a new arms race in space? Do you see other nations responding to this strategic shift?
Yeah, absolutely. And not necessarily just in space, but in other ways as well. And in a way, we've already seen this. In anticipating the U.S. move to develop further its missile defense, Russia for some years now has developed what have been tagged as Russia's sort of super weapons. And so these are new types of weapons. There's what's called Poseidon, which is a sort of nuclear powered and nuclear armed torpedo. There's also this thing which is called kind of Skyfall by at least Western countries, which is a nuclear capable cruise missile with supposedly unlimited range. So what I expect we'll see is Russia, China putting more investment into, I suppose you could call them kind of more exotic weapon systems in order to be confident of evading these defenses, no matter what they might be.
Now, Trump has claimed that Canada is so-called on board, but so far there's no signed agreement. How much real international support exists for this program, Professor Brown, and how will other major powers like India, France, and the EU respond?
Yeah, so, Canada was mentioned. I mean, frankly, it's quite easy to express an interest in this project at the current stage, since it's just a concept. So really Canada's expression of interest doesn't really count for that much. For allies more broadly, well, some in Europe, I think, might regard this as a distraction. They would prefer to see the United States generously funding Ukraine. That would be, in their view, the best contribution to Western security. But I suppose further down the road, if this system were actually to work, then it could be expanded to theater defense. I mean by that, to defense of U.S. forces in Europe, in East Asia, and also to U.S. allies. So in the long term, with that big if it actually functioned, then it could be welcomed by allies.
If the system is U.S. controlled, though, what guarantees do allies have that it will be used to protect them and not just continental U.S. interests?
Well, none whatsoever, really. It depends on the administration, but under the Trump administration, they have been very clear that this is an America first administration, right. And defense of the homeland comes before anything else. And with their transactional approach, U.S. protection will be provided as long as the allies make it worthwhile for the United States. So, yeah, it certainly wouldn't be a real guarantee that allies could rely upon.
And Professor, before we let you go here, what else will you be keeping a close watch on in the next few weeks with Trump's Golden Dome?
Yeah, lots of things, really. The development of this from a concept into a plan to try and work out just how revolutionary it might be, how this space-based kind of interceptors might work. Is it about firing interceptor missiles? Is it supposed to be a laser system? All of that is yet to be determined. And then there's all of the stuff within the domestic realm within the United States. Would this be seen as essentially a way of channeling billions of dollars to Elon Musk and SpaceX? Elon Musk, such a divisive figure, if it really becomes associated with him, then that's really going to make it an issue of partisan division with the United States, even more so than at present.
Some great insights from you there. Thank you so much, Professor Brown, for joining me today.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. That was James D.J. Brown, Professor of Political Science at Temple University, Japan. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.